I am so excited to interview. I'm not actually interviewing anyone. I'm introducing this next panel. And it's going to be led by my friend and colleague, Christy Cook. And woo!
Woo!
And folks are going to introduce themselves, but I just want to say thank you to this panel for coming. A number of them flew in for this, and on the important discussion around reducing burnout and what we can do around leave management, equal access to time off, and the benefits that you need to have in place to manage and support employees at different phases of their lives. And so with that, Christy, I'll hand it over to you. Round of applause.
Thank you, Amy. Can everybody hear me okay? That's a weird sensation. So I thought, we're not the session right before happy hour, thank goodness, right? No one wants to be that, but we are we've been here a minute, so I thought I'd start with a quick dad joke about burnout. So I asked my calendar for some me time, and it crashed from laughter. It's a pretty good one. Thanks for those that laughed. So I'm Christy Cook. I'm an account executive and team lead on the CS team at Nava Benefits. I've been here about a year and a half. Love everything we're doing. Super passionate about all the things Donald and Brandon talked about this morning, and glad to be here. I'm from Tennessee, so I came all the way across the country to be here today. And I'm just going to go around robin here and let you guys introduce yourselves and tell the folks where you're from.
Great. I'm Kara. I am the Chief People Officer at a company called Sightly. We are a media ad tech company. We're 70 people, and we are a fully distributed team, so we all work remotely. I am from Austin, Texas, so flew in this morning. Excited to be here. I'm also an advisor for Nava.
Thank you. Leslie O'Brien. With Amazon One Medical from the Seattle area. And I get to oversee our channel partnerships team from a customer success management perspective. So we get to work with fabulous partners like Nava to offer One Medical to their employers and then ultimately to their employees' independence. So really excited to be here today. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paul Park. I lead a go-to-market at Sparrow, the tech-enabled market leader for stress-free leave management from San Francisco, and I'm also excited to be here. I am wearing my Leave is Complicated t-shirt, but I feel after hearing Brandon speak, I feel like I need to wear it more often. So that is a new goal of mine.
So guys, burnout and leave management are major challenges impacting today's workforce and bottom line. And so this panel that you've met brings together experts from benefits, HR, and well-being. And we're just going to talk about some real-world strategies this afternoon. To frame up the conversation, I want to dig into expectations. That's a big word. And so how have employee expectations around benefits evolved, especially related to mental health and holistic well-being? And I really think the question should say, how have expectations evolved since COVID?
Massive. What I have seen, and I'm sure some of you, especially we're in California right now, holistic health and root cause. Like hands, how many people have looked into root cause or holistic health right now? It's something that all employees are now looking for in benefits packages, or at least knowing that their company is looking for that. And there are just so many companies that are now coming out, so many tools that are coming out, and then brokers like Nava that are partnering with holistic or root cause type companies that can make that more accessible. Because as you know, if you have looked into it, it's not super accessible to everyone, but that is something that I have seen that's been a massive change, certainly since COVID, and just recently, right now, health has been in the news a lot. So that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, we've been hearing from a number of our employer partners and clients that employees want easy access to healthcare and whole person care, not just a little segment here and there. We're all so busy We're all moving in so many directions. We only have so much time. And so having the ability to find a partner that can take care of the whole person in one place that's efficient is definitely top of mind. We're also hearing more need for benefits parity. So we have, ABC company has employees all throughout the United States. And so how do we try to provide the best benefits for everyone in every location, not just necessarily at headquarters? Or Paul was just telling us his company was built to be 100% remote. So how do you focus on providing that parity in all the different states?
I think employees, we can all agree, they just expect more from their employers. One thing that I think is interesting that there's a trend. Show of hands, have you heard of the Show Us Your Leave campaign that was started by the Skim maybe like 4 or 5 years ago? So a few of you. So it's a resource where I think there's like upwards of 1,000 companies, whether they're small startups that are emerging and growing, or whether you're a large enterprise that have decided to take the campaign and show their leave policies. And usually the leave policies, they're doing it because they're pretty generous, but generous doesn't always mean good. But then they're showing all the other ancillary benefits that they're offering. They're basically saying, we care about your well-being. So now employees, they're finding that these resources, so it's a way for them to say, hey, if this is important to me, I know that there's these companies, whether you're small or large, that are putting their money where their mouth is, where I can go and I already can see what their leave policies are, what leave benefits do they have, and this is maybe where I want to go and apply an interview or work for. And I think that there will be a trend where more and more companies will do this, especially as they're trying to win the war for talent.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to pick on you a little bit more there, Paul, because I loved your answer to this next question last week. How can companies balance cost restraints with the need for meaningful ancillary benefits? And last week you mentioned usage-based pricing, which I love.
So we're definitely seeing a trend in more, whether it's straight usage-based pricing or whether it's like a PUPM, which is a per user per month, instead of a peanut butter spread where you're paying for something across the board for everyone, for something your employees may never ever use. And so if you go the usage route, the trend that we're seeing is you can tailor the benefit offerings. So depending on whether it's like tuition reimbursement, or whether it's leave management, whatever the benefit is, there's usually a subset of employees that will actually use that service in that year. And so this is a way that you can try and build a benefit strategy by maximizing the dollars to try and get your demographics, what they actually care about and what they'll actually utilize.
And are you seeing that with leave vendors specifically?
Yes. Yeah.
Anything, Leslie or Kara, to add to that one?
We too are seeing that trend within the advanced primary care space. Again, not everybody will want to, or they may have their own primary care before joining a company that has access to One Medical. So we are definitely seeing more and more requests for that per member per month model versus the PEPM model. So I would say that's been a shift that we've seen over the last probably 12 months or so, much more focus on that.
Yeah, one of the stats I'll share is like when you think about leave management, your employees, we typically see anywhere between 6 to 10% of your employees go out and leave in a calendar year. So if you go the other way, you're paying for something, let's say upwards 90% plus, that may never use the service versus the ones that are. And now I know that there are some companies that do have extremely high leave rates. I've seen upwards of 20, and most recently I saw a company with 35%, and I was just thinking like, how is the company even operating? But typically we see 6 to 10%.
Yeah, and from a smaller company perspective, because I have been coming from smaller startups, the way that we look to save on leave is just becoming really creative and looking at our population, truly understanding our population, maybe doing a survey or a poll or doing a roadshow if y'all aren't doing that yet, to figure out what your employees need, I would recommend that. And then taking that and looking at it and saying, oh, okay, we see this subset of population, or maybe it's just one person. Right now, I was telling this crew, we were just talking about implementing grandparent leave. So we have somebody who's going to be a grandparent for the first time. And when we realized that on a call, my CEO was like, you should have time off. You're going to be a grandparent for the first time? Like, why aren't we doing that? And so it was like, all right, let's talk about that then. And so being able to be creative as a small organization when we think about leave, it's really about being creative with your population, really understanding the population, and the impact you can have by implementing something like that. And it's not just going to be impact on that one person. When we announce it, the whole company is going to be like, oh my gosh, you are supporting one of our favorite people at the company. This means so much. Like, I'm not going to be taking grandparent leave because I'm not there yet, but hell yeah, I'm excited to be here and have this type of culture and leave benefits.
So the key component to successful engagement is leadership. I feel really strongly about this. Everything has to flow from the top down, right, to get buy-in across an organization, especially if you're spread out geographically. So what have you guys seen work in terms of building culture where time off is seen as a strength?
Yeah, so this is one where, again, I'm going to be coming from a smaller company, one that everyone is working remotely. And so we rely heavily on Slack, and specifically Slack emojis. And so showing that, like, we have picked certain emojis that are for certain things, like taking a walk, spending time with your dog, picking up the kids, in the car, having lunch, right? And seeing on Slack, and of course, like seeing leadership do it, but seeing on Slack, you see what people are doing, and then you feel like, oh, okay, I can stop and eat lunch because Kara's doing that every day. I see a hamburger on her Slack every day, so I can do that. Or like, oh, she's picking up it seems like she picks up her kids a lot from school. Like, now I'm feeling comfortable that I can probably do that too because she's putting it there. The other thing that we do as a small organization is that all of our calendars, all the way up to our CEO, are visible. So you know when I'm getting my kids from tennis, you know when I'm going to a yoga class, you know when my CEO is picking up his kids. And so and again, we're 70 people, so we're a little bit more open about that. But then it allows everyone to feel like they can do those things too and take time off because it's very visible. So all about visibility and showing that it's important, and then people feel comfortable doing it.
I would echo that. Being the role model for the team and walking the walk, talking the talk, not just saying, oh, you should take that time off, and then not taking that time off for yourself is so important. It's a little harder at such a huge organization like Amazon, but what I really do have control over is my fantastic team that I work with. They are spread out all across the United States intentionally to be by our clients, but we travel a fair amount. And so really working with the team and taking those personal days. Sometimes you have to fly on a Sunday to get somewhere to be there for Monday. Okay, well, I want to make sure that you're checked out Friday. I don't want to hear from you. I won't reach out to you, I promise. And then my schedule varies so much that oftentimes I will end up, I have 2 teenagers who are incredibly busy. Both are ice hockey players, so I'm oftentimes working from an ice hockey rink, and or in an evening times. And so I schedule send as many emails and Slacks as possible because I don't expect the team to respond right away. But if I have something on my mind, I want to make sure I get it out to them. This is my dedicated time. While my daughter's on the ice for an hour and a half, I can get a bunch of emails out, but then I schedule send them depending on if it's going to somebody on the East Coast versus the West Coast versus the whole team. Finding the right time for that send to go out. And Slack now has that option, which has been fantastic. I use that all the time. And that seems to be really well received by the team. So then they can reply at their own pace.
love emojis, love scheduling. I'm a big fan of it. Like if I choose to work and if I choose to send something out at night, I'll schedule it because like it can wait. What's so urgent that if I send something, I'm not gonna I don't expect them to respond, so it can wait. So just have it go out in the morning. And so for me, I also agree. It starts with the leadership. Like you have to lead by example. And I actually got called out on this. So I think I did a great job before leading by example by taking time off because traveling is my passion. So I'll take 1 or 2 trips every year. The team will know about it. But I was still checking in and I was still sending emails. And I didn't really realize it. And I got called out. So, but the last year, I didn't. And the team called me out and said, you know what, Paul, you know what? You actually didn't check in or you didn't send any emails. I said, yeah, because you guys got it under control. So I felt really good about that, but it's just being conscious to continue that. And so we also do a thing, it's optional. So within the go-to-market function, we have a weekly team meeting. And so when someone does go out and take some time off, if they want, optional, we do a thing called trips report. So if they want, we'll give them 5 minutes. They can show some photos, talk about where they spent their time off, and the team loves it. So we continued it. And again, it is optional because we don't ever want to put anyone in a situation where they feel obligated, like they have to share something. But if they want, they'll let the leader know, and we'll give them a slide. They'll put photos and they'll share it, and it keeps us all connected. Again, being in a fully remote company, we have employees now in 45 states. And so little things like that, I think, go a long way. But I do believe it does start with leading by example. And sometimes you can say you're leading by example, but there's still cues that you might not be doing that you don't realize because that's just the way you operate. And I was fortunate enough to have a team that we have open conversations, and I got called out. So
I love that. Paul told me he takes 1 week off a year, twice a year, 2 times per year. So I'm like, that sounds awesome.
I'll be in Rome in a week and a half.
Rome, Italy, or Rome, Georgia? Paul, that's
Rome for a night, and then to Sicily for a wedding, and then I'll spend a couple extra days in Taormina, where they filmed White Lotus too. So I'm excited.
sounds awesome. And going back to emojis, I worked for an organization years ago that was on the cutting edge of Slack coming around, and I'm like, oh my God, one more thing to have to keep up with, right? But now that I've used it at Nava, the double eyeball emoji changed my life.
Favorite, yeah.
I mean, like in one click, it's like, hey, client or coworker, I saw it, I got it. Once you've established that trust, you can just circle back to them, and they're not, on the edge of their seats waiting to hear back from you or worrying that they want. So yes, big proponent of Slack double eyeball.
I mean, the best thing is too is that at the companies you can create your own emojis. So I don't know if y'all have like people that are creating their own emojis, but it's really fun to bring the company together when you make a fun emoji for like a specific situation that happens, and then you keep seeing that little emoji popping up. And then it becomes part of the culture, and then you like have swag with it, and it becomes like a whole thing. So even though emojis are, sometimes everyone's like, ugh, with emojis, it actually is, they're super powerful and can be super powerful.
So let's just discuss some trends we've seen for expanded leave policies. So you mentioned already, you stole my thunder a little bit, Kara, but you mentioned grandparent leave. And I'm like, it's kind of like the suitcase with the wheels. Why did it take us so long to figure that out, right? But that's such an awesome idea. Have you implemented that at your organization, or you're starting to see it in like other people in your network?
So if anyone else has done it, please. We just talked about this a couple days before we actually spoke. And so we're talking about implementing it right now. So we have not implemented it yet. We plan to do it for this person who is about to be a grandparent. So I don't have any details. Once I do it, though, I'd be happy to share with anyone. If they're interested. I think that we're really excited to do it and get it out there and let people know about it. Because I think the more that we talk about it and or post on LinkedIn, although like that kind of gets old sometimes, where people don't like to see those things, but the more that we're sharing and the more that we're showing, the more that other companies will be like, oh, hey, yeah, we should think about that, or that's really interesting. Or people who are about to be grandparents at companies can say, hey, did you see what
Yeah.
this company's doing, like that's really meaningful.
I mean, even if it's just a week,
Yeah.
you know,
Correct.
the return on investment with that would be huge.
But I think having that formalized is important, because what we see companies, whether they're small or large, there's still companies that just do what's called salary continuation, where they just say, you know what, we'll just pay you. But that can lead to a lot of bias unless you're willing to do that for everyone for an indefinite amount of time.
Precedent is
Yeah,
so
it's so you need to be very thoughtful about how you build that out.
I agree.
Yeah.
And Leslie, what about, I love this idea, but haven't seen it implemented, is like preventive care leave. So, hey, we're going to give 2 days off a year, for example, to make sure you and your dependent, maybe your dependent children, have a half day or a whole day to go take care of your preventive visits. Have you seen that in organizations?
We have seen some some of our employers who are really focused on preventive care and the well-being of their employees, and then the feedback that they hear is, well, it's just hard to get into a doctor, or I got to get my child and transport them, and I have to take a whole day off of work just for that. So some of our employers that we work with have implemented focus on that, whether it be school-age children that maybe need to get a sports evaluation, something along those lines, and then partnering with us at One Medical, because we do have those same and next day appointments, and we average a 2-minute wait time to see the doctor when you show up for your appointment. So that's been a great pairing for our two organizations. And then some of the employers we work with as well have a wellness program to help incentivize employees, where it's either the carrot approach or the stick approach. I think what I have seen, the carrot approach has worked much better, but saying, if you meet X, Y, and Z criteria, and we're going to help you meet that, such as getting an annual exam every year. And if you check off a few of these boxes, then you'll have $50 less per month out of your paycheck for your annual premiums, or some other entered into a raffle for a really neat prize, to encourage people to take the time to take care of their health. And that also helps lead to increased presenteeism and reducing that burnout when you have a good, strong relationship with a physician who can say, that blood pressure's starting to go up. What's going on at work? What's going on at home? What's happening with the diet? Getting to know the whole person and help them through that journey to stay healthy.
I just want to plug One Medical, because I'm a One Medical member. And
didn't pay him, I promise.
She did not. It was incredible when I switched over to be able to schedule, whether it's in person or virtual, usually the same week. I've never experienced anything like that. So
Yes,
just a huge fan.
It is a huge differential, and once you step foot in one of our offices, I always say you'll never go back. Having that personalized care, somebody to follow you through your journey.
On the topic back of just data and just when you think about leaves, a lot of people, I heard there's a lot of leaves because there was COVID, or there's post-COVID hangover and just people dealing with leaves. But the data actually shows that leaves continue to increase in terms of the percentage, but also the duration. And the main reasons that I see, or we see in the data, is that there's a few. One, because nothing's getting passed at the federal level for paid leave, there's more states that are rolling out their own paid leave programs. So right now there's currently 14 if you include DC, with a couple that are upcoming in 2026, Minnesota, Maine, and Maryland. And there's more. I think there's almost 24 states that have enacted legislation. So within the next 5 years, we will see a lot more, maybe even upwards of 50% of the states. Not all. My beliefs, I don't think they'll be all. But that's one. So if you have employees in those states, now they have access, they're more likely going to take time off for a leave to take care of themselves or for someone else. Another one is that we're seeing more mental health leaves. And I think some of that did start with COVID, but then people thought that would die down, but that's not the case. It still continues. We're seeing more ADA and leave accommodations, which I think this one we're barely starting to scratch the surface of. There's going to be an accelerant because there was a couple federal laws that affect this, the Pregnancy Fairness Workers Act and the PUMP Act that were passed last year. So there's more and more awareness of this now. The third one that we're also seeing is safe leaves. Has anyone heard of safe leaves?
So sorry.
A few people. So safe leaves is another way of classifying domestic abuse. So it's a way that someone that most people don't want to talk about that with their employer. So it's a safe way for them to say, you know what, I need time off because I'm dealing with this issue without having to explain what the issue is. And if you look at some of the stats, 1 out of 4 women are experiencing some type of domestic abuse if they're in a relationship. But it's not just women. There's 1 out of 10 men experience this as a male. So it goes both ways. So that's another growing trend that we're seeing is safe leaves. The third bucket is that we're seeing more non-birthing parents take time off to bond with their children, which I think that's a great thing. Can I get a round of applause for that? But also to share in the responsibilities of that childcare. And then the fourth one is we're seeing an uptick in caregiving leaves. There's a stat that says by 2030, there'll be more people that need care than that are working. And I know that's something that I think about a lot with my parents. And if they need care, I'm going to be there for them. So I think about, there's going to be a time when I do need to take that time off to be there for my parents or for my family. And so we're already starting to see an uptick of those types of leaves as well. So I think a combination of all that just, again, continues the leave rates continue to rise, but also the duration.
Yeah, in case you guys missed that, I want to double click on what Paul just said again. By 2030, there will be more people who require care than the number of people in the workforce. So that means for many of us, like myself, who have aging parents and kids that are still in school, I'm the peanut butter in the sandwich, right? I'm done parenting my parents and I'm parenting my children. And I don't know, I think we're going to hear a lot more about caregiver leave. It's already a buzzword, but I think we're going to hear more in the coming years. Beyond leave, what benefits support well-being across life stages? And Leslie, I wanted to give you the mic here, just talking about preventive care and utilization. For me personally, before I want to talk about point solutions with clients, I really want to dig into the data. What is your preventive care utilization? And if it's dismal, that needs to be priority number one. So I'll let you take that.
Yeah, we typically see in the U.S. that a third of people have a primary care physician. And so there's great opportunity there to help your employees and their family members get better access to primary care, as well as a primary care that can focus on all those different stages that the person is going through in life. Someone who has young children will have different needs than someone who's maybe going through menopause versus someone who is later on in life and maybe having more higher risks for conditions like diabetes and cardiac events and such. And so finding a program that can really fit all of those needs. Some of the neat things we're doing at Amazon One Medical, if you have a new baby and you go in for a well baby visit, they also pair that with the mother visit at the same time. So it's not two separate appointments. Anybody who has a new baby knows how hard it is just to get out the door and to have to do that twice. And what we found is that the moms weren't taking care of themselves and weren't doing those appointments. So have it all in one, taking care of the whole unit, not just the individual. We are also in the process of getting 150 of our primary care providers certified to be menopause specialists. In the US right now, there are less than 4,000 menopause specialists, and 6,000 women go into menopause every single day. Huge need out there. Very minimal research available at this time. And so being able to help women through that phase of their lives and what they're going through and all the misinformation that's out there. So we're really excited about that. We also have our impact program that helps people that have 2 or more comorbidity rates and helping them through that life cycle of finding the right path, whether that's through working with a nutritionist and pairing that maybe with a GLP-1. And because it's paired through a coaching program, most times it's covered by insurance, and monitoring them through that entire process and how they come off those GLP-1s and can still be successful. Lowering the A1Cs, for example. Again, not just for that one time period, but through the whole life of that person. So really exciting things that are happening in preventive care to keep the person well, keep them at work, keep them running their best life possible, and avoiding that burnout.
Yeah, and I, excuse me, I think from again, like a smaller company perspective, if you're not able to be able to partner with, and I don't know, maybe we can talk about like what One Medical is, because I actually am not well versed in that. But so recently at our company, it was a certain month. And I was like, okay, this month is specific to getting skin checks. So why don't we, so I talked to my CEO and I said, hey, every company, there's these certain months that we send stuff out and it's like, okay, here we go. And everyone's like, how do you really mean it? How do you support your employees through these certain months? And there's a lot of months that are awareness months that are related to health. And so it's like, okay, in Melanoma Awareness Month, let's make sure everyone knows to go and get their skin check. In Breast Cancer Awareness Month, let's make sure people go and get their mammogram. And it's really easy for us because we are all remote and we're very flexible. But I'm encouraging other leaders to say to their CEOs or their leaders, like, hey, let's give time back to our employees. Because doctors' offices, even if you can get in 2 minutes, that's amazing. But they're only open during work time. And so you can only call and schedule during work, and then you can only go during work. And usually wait times are crazy. So it's nuts. And so even for your hourly employees, give time back in those specific months and really make an impact and show your employees you truly care about preventative by giving that time back and not having to spend, as a smaller company, we don't have to spend on a tool or some of the menopause stuff, which is like amazing. It's expensive right now to partner with those companies. So how can we at least give time back to people to feel like they can still own their own health and be in charge of their own health and really be preventative?
Good stuff.
The only thing I'll add is just these are the moments when it matters. Like if you think about how many times someone needs to take time off to take care of some of these things, right? Maybe a handful of times throughout their career, but these are the moments that matter. And it's important for employers to show up.
Mm-hmm. And I think lead by example too. Even if you're a people leader of just a small team or a pod, being vocal if you're comfortable about it, talking about the skin check or your annual physical or whatever, and just try to cultivate that safe place where, because even like our Gen Alphas that are still on their parents' plan or they're going to be coming off, they don't know how to do this stuff, right? So the more we talk about it in our own team and pods, the more awareness we will have.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like 5 years ago, were we talking about menopause on a stage?
No.
Like seriously, some of the
grandparent
companies
leave. I mean,
like not at all.
Not at
and
all.
now like we can say menopause without people being like, oh my god, like menopause, right? Like, and so it is. It's really just bringing it to places like this, talking about it with your leaders, being like, yeah, I have to walk out of this meeting right now because I'm sweating because I'm going through menopause, and making that okay and normal. I love that.
I do too. We can say menopause and mental health in the same sentence, and no one's going to think twice about it.
Absolutely.
Amen to that, right? 2 quick topics, because we're down to about 6 minutes. I want to talk about return to work, and I want to talk about data. Paul, I know you love data. What return to work approaches have you seen work? And Paul's going to see if you and Kara both can talk about your experience with ramp-up returns.
Yeah, sure. So we're seeing a trend. So when people are out, and usually it's for people that are out a little bit longer in their leave, which again, like I said, we're seeing longer durations. When you think about it, if someone's been out for, call it, 3 to 6 months or even longer, depending on the company, like the company can look different, right? You can have new team members, you can have new processes. It just can be different, or they're still dealing with their own issues and they're not fully 100%. And so what we're seeing in the ramp is employees that are coming back working 20 hours. So if they're full time, 40 hours, 20 hours for the first 2 to 3 weeks, and then moving to 30 hours for the next few weeks, and then back to a normal schedule of 40 hours. And we're seeing this work extremely well.
Yeah, Kara, you mentioned it too, and just the point on when they get back to regular wages, even if it is a reduced schedule, the administrative burden is not there in terms of how are they paying for their benefits, and we can't deduct from them not having a check. And so you just talk about how that helped you guys at your organization.
It's so helpful, and to your point, yeah, a lot of people come back and they have a new team sometimes, or we did a restructuring and they're reporting somewhere else, or something's going on and they have so much going on back home, or they just had a new baby, or they took some mental health leave, or were working on something that was really important, and coming back into a really stressful situation just doesn't work for a lot of people, and they end up leaving. I don't know if there's data on this, Paul, but reintroducing someone back into the workforce, how long do they actually stay for, right? Is it...
Trying to figure out how to get better data on this, but we know what happens, so you're right.
Right.
We're not going to stop trying. We'll get the data.
When you get it, I want to see it. But so I've always been a proponent of, hey, coming back from any type of leave, your first 2 weeks, let's make it modular. Like, let's figure out how we can be flex here. Let's make it half-time. Let's make it whatever you need to be. You need to start at 10, leave at a certain time, like whatever it is. And we have found that when people are reintroduced in that way, not just like back full-time that first day, it is so helpful and it's so appreciated. So instead of that person turning over in 6 months, they stay for another couple years. And that's worth the cost of them coming back half-time or whatever it is for those couple of weeks. I mean, it's worth it. And if I had the data, I could present it to my CEO and say, the data's right here. It does make sense. But I mean, it's just, it kind of feels just like we see it happening. And so it's really good to just kind of, even if it's 1 week, just everyone coming off a leave, give them a little space to ease in and get comfortable again.
So final topic on data and surveys, like employee engagement surveys. Tyler mentioned in the session before us that let me see if I can get this straight. They are doing 20% of their workforce monthly. And so they're, constantly in this pattern of having fresh data. Paul, why don't you talk about how often you're engaging your population with survey?
Sure. So we're engaging quarterly. So we found that just annually just doesn't work. We're rapidly growing, and so we have a lot of new team members. We want to make sure that they have a platform to be heard. So we do it quarterly. But I think the important thing is not just doing it and then it goes into a black box or leadership looks at it. We always have a platform where our CEO and our head of people, they share the information back and we educate the employees on what we're seeing with the data. And it's very important because a lot of times people they're asking questions like, well, why is this happening? Or I asked for this, or how come it only, how come we're not getting this? But there's usually a logical reason. As long as you explain it, then people understand. So they just want to understand the why behind it. They want transparency. The other thing too that our CEO does extremely well in terms of getting a high percentage. So our engagement survey results, we always get 90% plus participation. And we use a great company called Lattice to do that. But the way we do it is it comes from the top. And so Deborah, our CEO and co-founder, what she does is she gamifies it and she sends it out, and then she'll create like a stack ranking between all the departments and team, and it'll say like, hey, sales, you're at like 60%, right? Marketing, you're at like 80%, engineering, you're at like 90%. So like it just, and the leaders, they get engaged because they don't want to be at the bottom. They want to make sure that we're all getting good participation, so we have the best data to work off of.
I think that's a little healthy competition is always good in those situations. We do the same. we at Amazon, there's actually, you get one question every single day when you open up your laptop. It's the first thing every day is a question, and it varies by what team you're on and if you're an individual contributor versus a manager. And then every month the managers get a report that goes through, which is an interesting way of doing it. One thing that we've noticed when surveying our physicians, which our physicians actually don't work for Amazon, they're a separate LLC. And so they have a different surveying tool there. But when talking about burnout, something that came up really quickly with the physicians is taking the note-taking process and charts and everything that's going with that. And I know we've talked a lot about AI. And so we now have a tool with the patient's permission. Not everybody says yes, but I would say 90% of patients come in. And it's an AI chart building tool that is audio-based, based on the responses that the patient gives. And we have seen a huge positive response from our physicians that is making their lives so much easier, and that they are continuing to be able to operate at their highest level and be spending more time with the patient than having to spend all that time typing up the notes. So I think that's finding different ways to get creative with different team members as well to support them.
Awesome. Well, we are at time, guys. We really appreciate you joining our session. If you have not met your 3 to 5 people that are new to you today, I encourage you to come up to Paul, Leslie, and Kara during a break. Say hello. Find us on LinkedIn. If you want to geek out about benefits or surveys or communications or any of those things, come find us. But really appreciate your time. Thank you, the 3 of you, for being here. Some of you coming along.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.